if the silent phase is necessary for learning a language, does that mean any harm can be done in a formal classroom setting by forcing kids to speak when you're in that phase?
Very good question. That's a very good question. So again, we're not really sure. We're only talking about hypotheses and theories, okay? There's some studies that back up my point of view, but it really depends. I would tell you my opinion. My opinion is that forcing too much too soon is never a good idea. Never. For a lot of reasons, starting with what we said before, the affective filter. You're putting too much pressure on a student, and the student will shut down, will just not talk. You too much pressure, emotional filter up, and we said with high level of anxiety doesn't come, unfortunately, language acquisition. They're on a different spectrum. So forcing too much, I think, is bad. For many reasons. And we see this a lot with communicative language teaching. I don't know if you know what communicative language teaching is. So in second language acquisition, there's been a lot of theories and a lot of methodology tried by professor, by researcher, grammatic approach, audio-lingual approach, translation approach, and the communicative language teaching. So in the past, for example, it was believed that, if you read and translate, that's how you learn a language. So let's use this method and see if it works. And they thought that was the method that would work. Then they try another one. So in language acquisition research, there's always a new method that works better. And then another one comes and works better. And then it's been used for a while in classroom. So for a while, now it's a bit changing, but from the early 2000s ahead, there was this revolution of the communicative language teaching. This approach, what it says this: since we can learn a language, we can learn a second language in the same way we learned the first one, so surrounded by the input, by the language, let's do this. We go in the classroom and we talk, like the mother does with the child. And if we do that, you get a language. And the success rate for this type of method, it was really high in certain contexts. So if the person is an extrovert, that totally works. If a person is an introvert, that might be a little bit different. So what I went to do actually was this. I went to Japan to study this. So because community language teaching seemed to be very popular, especially in teaching European language, English, Spanish, Italian, my question was, since Japanese people tend to be, generically speaking, and every person is different, a little bit more introverts, a little bit more shy, and have approach to study in a different way from Western country, could that approach be okay even for these people? And when I went there, I realized that no, it doesn't work. Because forcing to talk, a person that simply not only doesn't want to talk, but it's also there's a lot of culture involved in when you study a language. And this is something that teachers, they really need to consider when they enter into a classroom. So who is your student, first of all? Japanese people tend to keep silent, to be silent during a classroom, but that's not because even they're shy, it's because it's a sign of respect for the professor. So if you enter in a classroom, you force them to talk, you're going to have the opposite type of result.
In a way, you're encouraging them to be kind of rude from the perspective of their own culture, right?
Yes, exactly. This is exactly a way to not consider the culture of a person, which for me is something super important in language acquisition as well. It's not only the student that is learning a language and therefore a culture, but it's you, teacher, that needs to learn the language and culture of the students that you have in front of you to understand. Otherwise, there's some miscommunication and cultural issues that happen. So when I went to this classroom, I realized that it's not that the communicative language teaching doesn't work. And on certain occasion, in a certain way, possibly can work, but not always. And forcing to talk, it doesn't work, especially at the beginning, because at the beginning, we say that always perception first, right? Perception, then production. Silent period happened for children, it happened also for adults. So especially at the beginning, in the first few months that you study a new language, you need to respect the silent period. The student is still good, is still learning, but it takes 4 months, 5 months, 6 months to say the first word in Italian or in English or in Japanese. It doesn't matter. We need to respect the silence period. While with the community language teaching, I don't want to criticize this method too much. It's really good for a lot of things. But the risk is to put too much pressure on the talking. And maybe a speaker is just not ready to speak. So you need also to consider timing. This person has been studying language 10 years, then of course, maybe it's the time to start to say a few words in Italian.
Right.
But if this person has started to learn the language 2 weeks ago, 3 months ago, It could just be too early.
Right. So in the context of, let's say, Japan then, because that's where you did your research, what would be the best way for Japanese students to learn, let's say, a language like Italian? Would it be more of that kind of static learning in a formal classroom setting?
What I can tell you is that there is no one right methodology. It's not like language is not a package that you can deliver. This was something that my professor at University of Rome used to say. It's not like a package, a box. You give this box and it is way more complex than that.
Did you enjoy that clip? Did you not? It doesn't matter to me. Subscribe. For the love of God.